I'm Owen Prunskis, co-founder and managing partner of DxTx Pain and Spine. As you know, I'm the son of two pain physicians, and so I had the pleasure and the privilege of growing up watching them build their practice over the course of about 3 decades. And I got to see up close and personal the struggles that they had, the amazing wins that they had. I remember them kind of opening up their first few satellite offices and then ultimately building up their own ambulatory surgery center. Over the summers, I would work in the office, and my sister also kind of was the same way. She went into medicine as a pediatrician, and I went a different route. Ended up studying math in school, going into investing, and was having a very great time in New York working in the investing world when my parents called me and they asked to help them evaluate a couple of offers that they had received from private equity firms. And knowing both my parents and how independently minded they are in their thought and how just really integral to the pain space that they have been in advancing it forward to where it is today, with the emphasis on diagnosing and treating the source of pain rather than masking symptoms with opioids. I knew that they weren't going to be ones to fit into a cookie cutter model working for some big corporate as employees. And so I asked if we could pause those discussions and create something better ourselves. And so they were kind enough to trust me to do that. And so the model that we created with DxTx is one that is really the one that I wish that my parents had when they were building their practice over the course of those 30 years. So we partner with physicians. We don't buy folks out as 100% owners. We treat everyone with respect. We preserve the autonomy at the practice level so that physicians can treat patients in the way that they know they should be treated without any other corporate pressures and profit motives that you might see in other kind of larger corporations. We do help them improve their practice, and we do a lot of the back office work so that they can focus on patient care. And we make sure that we're aligned both in terms of ethically, culturally, putting patients first, and also having the economic alignment so that when they're winning, we're winning. And when they're hurting and when they're struggling, we have that same motivation to help pull them out of whatever situation they're in. So it's been a pleasure to build what we have so far and have a great team around us to do it. Number one thing that we focus on, and we will screen out potential affiliates on this criteria, is are they practicing pain in the way that we think it should be treated? And that means emphasis on diagnosing the source of the pain and treating the source of the pain rather than masking it with opioids or other narcotics. One of the challenges that we've seen over the last few decades in the pain space is that it tends to have a bit of a stain on it, and that's a result of two things primarily. The first is overutilization of opioids and overprescribing, and much of that has come down over the years. And then the second is overutilization of ancillary services, especially urine toxicology labs. So we look to see that practices are doing things the right way, that they're not leaning on those sorts of kind of artificial ways of earning income, and that they're putting patients first. So that's our number one screen. So if someone's looking to cash out and ride off into the sunset, we're probably not the right partner for them. The partners that we typically have the most success with are those that have built something truly good and they're doing well, but maybe they feel like they've hit a natural ceiling, and typically it's one or two or three kind of younger physician owners that really want to go to the next level, and they need a business partner that can bring expertise, management ability, strategic thinking, and also capital to the table to help them expand and grow. That's one kind of archetypical physician that we work very well with. The second type is a physician that maybe is a senior physician and has junior partners that maybe they've already bought in, maybe they haven't. And we are very helpful in facilitating that transition to the next generation of physician owners. But we always look to have very active, growth-oriented physician owners who share the same vision for compliance and putting patients first. I think the biggest differentiator is the DNA that we have, which is very much understanding what it means to be a physician entrepreneur and a physician founder, and respecting all the challenges and struggles that come along with that. Almost to a person, our leadership team and even the kind of next layer of management has one or both family members who have started their own practices, either in pain or in other specialties, or have owned and operated their own businesses in the healthcare space. And I think having that entrepreneurial mindset and that mindset of knowing what it takes to start something from 0 to 1 allows us to come into situations with a lot more respect and humility for what the physician that we ultimately partner with has had to go through to get to where they are today. We also are hyper-focused on interventional pain and spine. And so while we might not know everything about other specialties, our focus on that discipline allows us to go very, very deep and have the ability to see common patterns across our affiliates because they're all effectively working through the same challenges and situations. I know a lot of companies will pay lip service to core values, and that's something that we actually take very seriously at DxTx. We hire against them, we bonus against them, we terminate against them when their values aren't being upheld and met. So we do have 4 core values. Our first one is being ethical. And so that means putting patients before profit. Our view is if you do the reverse, putting profit before patients, you'll soon have neither of those, and you shouldn't have either of those either. So being ethical is our kind of number 1 value. Being hungry is another one that we really stress. And what that means to us is that we reward hard work and we expect hard work from the people that we surround ourselves with. And that includes our physician partners, our call center representatives, our accountants, our operations folks. Everyone across the board has that same standard that they should be working hard and trying to advance themselves in their practice and go to the next level. The next core value of ours is humility, being humble. And so what that means is assuming that the other person that you're speaking to knows something that you don't know and really striving to understand deeply and to learn from them. And then from that place of shared understanding, then we can start crafting solutions together. We're not a top-down culture where we tell people what they have to do because we know better than they do. Because most often than not, we might have an idea, but it's very rare that we have the whole picture. So being humble is critical. The last value that we have is smart. And what that means for us is using data and good questions to drive our insights and our actions. And that comes in the form of several different avenues. We're very data-centric. We have metrics for almost everything, but also following through on that and creating process around the change so that it's stable. It's not a one-time point solution, but it's actually building a structure that can last, and stand the test of time and continue to drive that improvement over time. So DxTx makes money in 2 primary ways. Both of those primary ways, we form partnerships with our practices and our physicians, and that partnership can take one of 2 forms. The most common is we form a joint venture in which we actually will buy a portion of the practice or surgery center alongside the physician, so we have real skin in the game. The benefit of that is the physician gets paid for a portion of what they've built today, and they get to reap those rewards day one. And also, we are tied to them both in the upsides and the downsides of what that practice will bring. We like that model a lot. We think that it aligns ourselves very well with the ultimate success that the physicians will have. And that's kind of the first structure. And we make money in that situation by taking our percentage of the profits at the end of the day. The second model that we have is our management contracts. And so in that model, we will provide our full scope of back office services to make sure the practices and surgery centers are being successful. In that model, we will typically take an upfront fee that is a recurring fee over time that's sometimes tied to performance and sometimes is a flat fee. And in that model, the physicians retain 100% ownership and they take 100% of the upside and they also take 100% of that risk. We still treat both models effectively the same way, where we want the best for the patients, the best for the physicians, the best for the practices, and they're 2 slightly different economic models for us. If anyone's considering reaching out to DxTx to see if we can be helpful in some way, I'd say do it, because in terms of risk reward, the only downside is potentially maybe a couple hours of your time in conversation with us. And the upside is, at the very least, you will learn something about your practice that you didn't already know. I'm not a physician, and in some ways that allows me to ask the dumb questions and really get at the root of what's going on, both at individual practices and then ultimately building out those patterns and recognizing them to start making sense of what's happening in the industry. And so by talking to a new physician, I have a very deep understanding of some of the common things that happen in practices, as is our whole team. And we're able to, with a combination of our data analysis and just the experiences that we have looking at hundreds of practices across the US, deliver some level of insight. And maybe we're not going to solve your problem overnight. And oftentimes these things take time. But if you're thinking about talking to us, I'd encourage it. At the very least, we'll teach you something. You'll learn something about your practice that you didn't already know today. And the upside is having a great partner to build your practice into the future.